So wow, first, maybe just take a moment and just really acknowledge all these amazing, wonderful people that led the meditation, provided their thoughts and insights and understandings of what's truly making this such a powerful and wonderful day. And Beth, any thoughts on that? Well, first of all, we should probably introduce ourselves because I realized we were part of the pre-meditation, and we may have a different group here. So my name is Mark Hinds, and I'm the founder and CEO of Resonant Technologies Group, and this is Dr. Beth McDougall. And so, Beth, your thoughts just on the meditation? And
that was powerful. Just that the connection with the divine and with everyone else who was tuning in and deep in meditation was just palpable and gorgeous, and put me in such a great state of peace. So lovely.
It's wonderful that we can take a little bit of our work day and
yeah,
we're forced to do this. And it's like,
this
oh,
is my
okay.
idea
Isn't
of a
that
work
nice?
day. Love it.
So really, we're honored to be a part of this great day. Where the world's connecting, resonating. And as I shared, my name is Mark Hinds, and I'm the founder of a company called Resonant Technologies Group, and here today with Dr. Beth McDougall. And today, our objective is introducing during this resonance hour that it's being called, this concept of resonance, and how beginning today, the human experience, it's going to change. And actually, it's already started. And this is just a moment that we can point to, that we can identify that this change is happening. So why are we here for a full hour today almost on this such important day, which is focused on this global meditation, this global dynamic of love and unity? Well, the intention today is really about another four-letter word besides love. Okay. And not the one that automatically probably came to your mind, but another four-letter word, and that word is hope. And we mentioned this a little bit just before the start of the meditation today, but it's clear with all of the challenges happening in the world today, especially the last couple of years, and those that are presenting themselves more, and even today with the situation in Ukraine, that hope is something that there seems to be a shortage of. And the majority of people that we talk to, really, when we boil down to like, what's the single greatest challenge that they're facing, is like, really, what can I focus on? What can I sort of have a path towards that can give me hope? That all of these challenges, whether it's environmental, health, consciousness, economic, what can we focus on that gives us hope that we can solve these problems? Well, today, Dr. Beth and myself hope to lay the seeds that something very special is being birthed, something that is going to change all of our lives in a way that has never been experienced before. And although I realize that's a pretty significant statement, it may sound like a little or a lot of hubris, but it is happening, and it's happening right now. And although you do not see it yet, as it's only really emerging from what has been imagined for almost 2 decades, and it's coming into manifestation now, into something tangible, that you are all on the precipice of a moment where humanity will be entering into a revolution of change. And, if we look at history, we've talked about this a little bit, and especially with Adele and the team at UNIFY, that all transformations of society have happened with really one significant thing, and that was technological advancements. Yeah. So we can go back really, really far to fire and the wheel, or maybe even over just the last 150 years, and we can point to 2 significant previous, what we would call really revolutions. So one was the Industrial Revolution, where we moved from a society that was making things by hand to manufacturing. And of course, nobody needs to be communicated with or explained what that brought to the world. And then maybe beginning about 50 years or so ago, the revolution from an analog society to a digital society. And of course, what we're able to experience here today with this live streaming, with a global connection with everything that's happening. We're experiencing really a significant part of what happened during this revolution from analog to digital. Well, what we really want to talk about today is the next revolution that's coming, and that's already started. And it's going to be the grandest, most significant revolution that humanity's really ever experienced. And this is a revolution from dissonance to resonance. So in the context of today, let's take a moment and just share what we mean by dissonance and resonance. So I think the simplest explanation of dissonance and resonance is that dissonance is working in violation with nature and natural systems, and resonance is
working in harmony with nature,
natural systems. And that's really, it's that simple.
Yeah.
That unfortunately, most everything we do today as a society is really dissonant to how nature functions. So, what are examples of dissonance? We split hydrocarbons, we blow up atoms, we and we split atoms to do what? Get a little bit of energy and boil water. And in health, what are examples of dissonance?
We radiate the body, poison it with chemotherapy, pull out organs. And, up until now, that was the best that we knew about. But there's so many more ways to approach it that are resonant with the human body.
So that's dissonance. And we can point to pretty much most everything we're doing today is dissonant to how nature functions. So now let's describe what we're talking about as resonance. So maybe a couple simple examples. One is the atom. So it's really fascinating that we have our entire existence is based on relationship with atoms, everything we see, feel, touch, and experience. Yet, if we ask any physicist, scientist, engineer, the nucleus of the atom is spinning at near the speed of light. And, there's no physics, there's no science to really explain where does that energy come from. Or a magnet, trillions of magnets installed in the world today. And, if I take a little magnet and put it on my refrigerator and it holds up a little piece of 8x10 paper for 10 years, if my arm had to do that, that'd be a lot of energy expended. Well, where does the energy of that magnet come from to do all that work? Not sure if you're all aware, most people aren't, but there's no explanation today really of how a magnet works. It sort of violates some of these were called laws of thermodynamics, meaning where this energy comes from. And another great example of resonance is the human body and 37 trillion cells.
Yeah, each with billions of chemical reactions happening every second in a coordinated manner. And how is that possible? Like where's the energy to fuel that coming from? Where's the information to orchestrate that coming from? So we're going to say this happens because being in resonance with the field of energy and information that we're derived from.
Yeah, so today, Dr. Beth and myself are going to talk about some technologies that have been quietly developed behind the scenes for about the last 15 years. And our experience is that these technologies, the understanding that they exist and they're coming forth, they're going to be able to provide hope. They're going to lay a foundation for a revolution that is going to be the greatest revolution that humanity's ever experienced. And although, again, that may sound like a little bit of hubris, it's coming and it's already began. And we're not the only ones, working on this, of course. There's a group out of Canada, out of Australia, out of Greece, Hungary, Poland, all over. There's groups that are creating some just extraordinary technologies and science that is going to start laying this foundation. And so on my team at Resonant Technologies Group, and soon a new venture to be announced over the next 3 to 4 weeks, we have about 40 physicists, scientists, engineers, PhDs, pretty good amount of high school dropouts, and some of them, they're some of the smartest of all, but really just an overall extraordinary group of humans, all focused on one thing. And this one thing is resonance. So let's get into it and let's really provide that. So for those that do not yet know, Dr. Beth McDougall, let me introduce just a little bit more. First, her book just came out to the market today. Super excited, called The Pristine Blueprint. And this morning when we had a couple breaks and just this afternoon, getting some really exciting feedback from it, and how it's already just allowing people to understand, okay, wow, here's how this extraordinary complexity of biology is working. And it's really working on one thing, which is being in resonance with this field of energy and information we live in. And besides being a medical doctor that people come from all over the world to see, she's also I know she doesn't like that part, but she's also the chief medical officer for our companies. She's helping invent a new type of stem cell activation technology. She's a chief medical officer of a really exciting immunotherapy company that's working on viruses and a new type of cancer treatment. So without further ado, Dr. Beth, maybe you can just share with us a little bit about what your understanding of resonance is and how you see that it's going to be leading into this, really this change of humanity that's, especially in the health world, is going to change so many things that we understand about health and how we're going to be able to solve problems and lead to longevity and vitality.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for all of that. And I think first it's good to even define the word resonance. Like, what does it actually mean? And a great definition is the sympathetic resonance of tuning forks. So if I were to have a tuning fork in the key of C and strike it, if there was another one in the room in the key of C, it would ring. If there was one in the room that was in the key of B, it wouldn't ring because it's not in resonance with the first one. And we're learning so much because of the thinking in contemporary physics right now about this continuous field of energy and information that we live within, that lives within us, and that we emerge from. And this field of information is highly structured and organized, from the smallest quantum scale all the way up to the infinitely large. And there are similar patterns and ratios that repeat across all scales. And our biology is hooked right into that. So really, our health is dependent upon the degree to which we are resonating with the fundamental structure of the universe. And then how well the ubiquitous energy in the unified field funnels into our system to maintain our physiology at the highest possible level, and to fuel all the chemical reactions happening, those billions of chemical reactions happening in each of our 37 trillion cells every second in a coordinated manner. And so I've been thinking about this for so long, and I wrote this book called Your Pristine Blueprint because of being a medical doctor for over 2 decades and working in the trenches with patients and attempting to unwind the most complicated medical problems. And then I ended up having a medical issue of my own and learned so much on my own healing journey. And then I set out on a quest, so to speak, to around the world to speak with cutting edge doctors and inventors and physicists, really leading this paradigm shift that we're all experiencing the cusp of right this moment. And what they were telling us about the nature of our physical reality was so compelling. And I felt if we now apply that same thinking to the human body, it will open up vistas of opportunity for solutions to all the health challenges that we have, and an opportunity to experience a level of vitality we've never known possible.
So can you give us, everybody wants, of course, when we go through these things, everybody wants to know, okay, what's in it for me?
Yeah.
Which is critical.
Yeah.
So of all the things that you're working with right now, can you give me an example, or give everybody an example, like of a technology that's based on this principle of resonance?
Sure.
And then go ahead.
Sure. I mean, so one of the technologies that I'm working really closely with is based on plasma and scalar technologies and light. And it's a device that I use to activate dormant stem cells in the human body. And I do it very simply by pulling tubes of blood out of a person and then spinning it down and pulling the plasma fraction off, and then exposing the plasma fraction to this device, and then putting the plasma right back in the body. And then we can use the device to direct the migration of what are now newly activated stem cells to a site in the body in need of healing.
So that's amazing, because people are really interested in stem cells right now.
Yeah.
But they're having to take it from other people's donors, or it has to be an invasive procedure. And of course, you couldn't be doing that. Okay, but what you're doing is acceptable or accepted. But so can you give me an example of like, what would be the benefit of using this technology? Like, what kind of changes can this make that is not currently available?
Well, there's so many examples of incredible benefits from like joint recovery to torn rotator cuffs to help with Parkinson's. And I'll just give one actual patient anecdote. One of my actual friends and an investor in the company was with her husband traveling in Mexico, and he went out to go shopping and came back and found her unresponsive on the floor. So she had a ruptured cerebral aneurysm and literally died in the process. So he came home, found her like that, began CPR, called a neighbor to drive to the hospital, where she had that blood evacuated out of her brain, and then she was in a coma. And they stabilized her enough to send her, airvac her to Mayo Clinic, Arizona, where she stayed in a coma for a number of weeks and finally came out of it, but really couldn't speak and couldn't move. And so she did as much neuro rehab as possible in the hospital, and then was flown home to their home in Reno. And I brought this device and kind of a team of people to the home and treated her. And the day of her first treatment, she said her first sentence in 6 months. She'd only said one word prior to that. And then just went back periodically. And every time I would go back and do this treatment, she would have a quantum leap in her functionality, from being able to walk again to then beginning to do complex movements like getting in and out of the car. And I'm so happy to say that she's fully functional and running and playing golf and tennis and pickleball. She's a big fan, and meditating perfectly, and got her personality back, her sense of humor. And it's a true blessing.
Yeah, so what a profound statement on how working in resonance, first of all, just these cells that are just naturally our cells.
Yeah.
And they're sort of like, they've just been waiting for us to move into resonance as almost like as a species,
right,
to develop technologies based on this, because they've just been waiting there.
I've often thought that, and they were only newly discovered in the past, let's say, 15 years. And this is an area of active research that's really accelerating. And for many reasons, they were missed previously, and people had focused on other kinds of stem cells that don't have the power that these beautiful little stem cells have. So I'm just super honored to be working with them, and I've seen incredible results. So working in resonance is absolutely important. I mean, because you think about we emerge from this highly structured field of energy and information that has patterns and ratios that are repeating across scales, as I've said, and those same patterns exist within our bodies. And so this field has basically what we need to begin to let the field be our medicine and work with fundamental components of the field to heal the body, like work with light and sound and electrons, like with pulsed electromagnetic field devices and plasma devices and scalar. And then we need to really work on delivering information signatures to the body. And there's various ways to do that.
Well, that might be a really good segue
Yeah,
into talking about how we can deliver information signatures into other biological systems,
absolutely.
plants. So one of our other companies, everybody can take a look. It's called Upterra. I think it's upterra.co. So they're using these same principles to grow plants. And instead of using chemicals, instead of using fertilizers, instead of using pesticides, they're using the principles of resonance to basically send the information of the substance into the plants. And really amazing things are starting to happen. So now they're getting significant increases in yield. The plants, the phytonutrient content is enhanced. They last so much longer, sometimes 3, 4, 5, 10 times as long before they start to wilt or degrade. And this is really going to be a complete revolution in how we grow food. Now, this technology, it's actually installed today. And the guys this morning came by, and I don't know if everybody can see this, but this is actually one of the devices that they're using. There's a whole bunch of other stuff hooked up to it, but it's pretty cool. Oh yeah, there's another. That one's huge, but it might be too big to bring over. But
Oh, it's so cool though.
Oh yeah, maybe at the end we'll grab it and bring it over. Might need somebody to help with that. But the idea is that this is already happening. It's quiet. It just really started going into the market the end of last year, but it's installed in thousands and thousands of acres now across the country.
With potatoes and almonds and
soybean and let's see here,
vineyards,
grass and grapes. Just so many things. But this is what we're talking about. Is imagine that we think organic is good. Imagine when we go to something that's super organic, where we're literally using just the information of something, connecting the plants to the field, and all of a sudden they're growing huge, and there's no more pests, and there's no more fertilizers, and there's no chemicals, and getting very significant reductions in water. And so this is just a really significant and important example of what's coming and what's already started coming with these understandings of resonance.
Yeah, I mean, and so we can deliver information signatures to the body as well in so many different ways.
Yeah, and maybe even before we talk about that, I think it's good just to give a little primer on how does this happen.
Yeah,
so
good idea.
Actually, this morning I was on a call with a group that one of the people that created First Foundation of JetBlue, and then another call last week with a group from Lufthansa and some other companies. Are like, okay, tell me about this idea of resonance. And there's one example that they all seem to resonate with. And the example is that most people aren't aware that atoms never really touch. So every atom has like a little electrostatic charge around it. And so if you imagine if I was to try to push the atoms together, they can never really actually touch because this little electrostatic charge around them keeps them from actually touching. And so we can then extrapolate that understanding up to molecules. So, even though I think I've got this little device on my hand right now, and it's actually touching my skin, if I had a really high-powered device where I could look at this, I would actually see there's a little barrier condition between my hand and the device. And otherwise, if this wasn't the case, there'd actually be no boundary conditions in the universe. The universe would just be a big blob. My hand would go right through the device. I'd be in the chair, not on top of it, but literally everything would just be a huge blob. And so since that's the case, since nothing is, extrapolate that up to molecules, and since no molecule has really physically touched another molecule, if I consume a vitamin or a drug or a mineral, it's definitely affecting me. But how is it affecting me? Well, we now know. And this has really been a challenge in research and biotech for quite some time. But we know that the substance basically, the substance emerges first out of the field.
That's right.
So first you have an electromagnetic signature, sort of like a complex vibration with multiple signatures and geometries to it. And then as this signature, if you will, slows down and becomes denser, then we experience mass. And so the stuff, the vitamin, the mineral, the drug, the fertilizer, the chemical, is really just a manifestation of this signature. So nature is already working just with signatures. There's nobody out in a rainforest fertilizing it. And so what we've been able to do is basically extract these electromagnetic signatures, identify them, and then be able to send them to biological structures. So for instance, in the agriculture, we're now able to send the information signature of nitrogen or potassium or whatever it is to the plant, and the plant loves it. It needs no energy to break it down. There's no cost, there's no side effects. So this is what we're talking about, of a revolution to resonance, whereby it's strictly and exactly emulating how nature functions. So then you were going to talk about some other examples of this?
Yeah, and I just wanted to say that this is not new thinking. All the way back in 1992, I brought Dr. Candace Pert, the late Dr. Candace Pert, to speak at my medical school. And she said something that absolutely influenced my thinking to the current day. And what she said is that molecules have a particular vibration, and receptors have a particular vibration, let's say on your cell membrane. And the molecule interacts through these vibratory interactions or vibratory resonance. So pretty much most of the projects that I'm involved in today are based on that concept. And so when we talk about the information signatures, they can be delivered through water, as Mark was just suggesting here. In agriculture, they can be imprinted into a substrate. So one of the companies in the RTG portfolio called SourceWave has a technology for identifying the information signature and then transferring that into a substrate. And this would be a patch material that can be worn on the human body. And it's got a particular adhesive that really facilitates like an electrodermal reaction with your skin and allows for that information to transfer into the body to do its job, to vibrate at particular receptor sites and actually activate those. And we're seeing incredible results with pain resolution or with focus, energy, to help people sleep, where the energetic signatures of various ingredients, let's say, that are good for sleep, natural ingredients, are embedded into the patch. And if you put it on before you go to bed at night, it facilitates a good night's sleep. Like I've worn these almost nightly for like many years to help with sleep. And it's been a dramatic difference, and same for a lot of my patients.
Yeah, so actually one of the companies that's using this right now, it's Vibrance, with a really great group, and maybe somebody on our team can actually, I think we've got some in the back, some of the Vibrance patches, but we'll show them in a moment.
We'll show them. Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll be fun. But
but this is changing people's lives.
Right. And you can deliver information signatures in so many different ways. And I do it in almost all of them. So through scalar fields, through plasma devices, through electrodes, and through pulsed electromagnetic field therapies. So I think we're moving into the future of medicine here, where we're going to be delivering information signatures to the body to affect changes with our physiology. And it's actually so much easier for the body, because oftentimes if you swallow a molecule or a substance, you have to first digest that, and then that has to get absorbed, and then it does its job potentially, and then it has to be metabolized by the liver, and then the metabolites need to be excreted by the liver or the kidneys, and it's a lot of work for the body. And in this case, instead, it's the energetic signature that just works in resonance, and then it's over.
Look at that.
Perfect.
So like these are one of the products, and we're not trying to actually do a promo for the product.
But it's cool for you to see.
Yeah. So you got this beautiful little packaging, but simply by putting this little patch on the body, which is no chemicals in it, just the electromagnetic signature of substances you would normally consume, that would help reduce inflammation or pain, they're getting extraordinary results.
It's extraordinary.
And we've got a doctor up in Canada that we're working with. He's a world famous pain doctor, Blair.
Yep.
And he's actually able to resolve migraines in almost 100% of his patients simply by putting these on a specific protocol on the body. So we're just starting to see that using this idea of resonance, of coupling to the field, electromagnetic signatures, we can start to solve pretty much every problem.
It's true. Yeah.
So maybe we can talk about maybe a couple other ideas of and technologies that are based on this that are doing really interesting things. So one is Sonify. So SONAPHI. And Sonify has been in development for really over a decade. And where we're at right now, which we're talking with a group this morning that is doing stuff with really radically new developments in aviation and want to work with some of our companies. And we told them what we were doing with this. And, these guys are doing pretty crazy stuff with like new thinking and gravity and things that most people don't believe. And when they told us that he couldn't believe we could do this, we're going, okay, now we know we're really out there. But so from 30 seconds of your voice and talking into a smartphone, we can now begin to see many, many things that are happening in the human body. We're going to be a little late to market because it took some while to develop, but with a very high degree of accuracy, for instance, we can see if somebody has a virus, which we've obviously been dealing with this very significant virus recently. And we've done many studies on things like neurodegenerative disorders, traumatic brain injury. There's an app that's coming to market right now that basically you can talk for 30 seconds and it can tell you how every one of your muscles may be inflamed, or even give you a predictive analysis of which muscle may be harmed, because which one's weak. We can look at hydration levels. There's so many things we can begin looking at, which we're not going to share fully today. But imagine you're going to, in a few years, on your smartphone, you're going to be able to have an analytic tool. Kind of reminds me of, what was it back in Star Trek? The tricorder. The tricorder.
Yeah.
And so it's a little different manifestation of the tricorder, but it's coming, and it's actually entering, the first aspects is entering the market right now. The first component is actually in test flight at the iTunes store or the App Store. So it's coming, and maybe we'll just, like how you provided an anecdotal experience of the cell code. Maybe just provide one with the voice analysis and then sending information back with the hardware, like with traumatic brain injury.
We did a small pilot study with a neurofeedback center here, and we had about 12 patients and did brain mapping with multi-channel EEGs, and they had evidence on the brain map or on the EEG of traumatic brain injury. And then we had them speak into a cell phone for 30 seconds. We looked at the kind of frequency pattern set in their voice and looked at the outliers, the very high ones and the very low ones, and produced a set of tones that were kind of the opposite of that to balance that out. And the participants listened with special headphones to a set of tones for just 20 minutes. And then they had their brain remapped with another EEG. And the neurophysicist or neuroscientist, I should say, that read the EEG said that the changes were so incredibly profound and more pronounced than what they would normally see with 2 times a week neural feedback sessions for multiple weeks at a time. So it's really extraordinary when you can get so precisely some information about what is out of range or what is out of alignment with your pristine blueprint and this field at large, and then you can ameliorate that with some corrective signatures or energy
and that are specific to you.
So it's really eventually we're moving to like real-time audio biofeedback, just to kind of constantly send back corrective signatures that are going to balance out your health.
So in the very near future, really, your smartphone and a special set of headphones is going to start to become an analytic and a pharmacopoeia.
Yeah.
And that's not trivial.
I mean, imagine just eventually being like, oh, you want to have sex? Well, here, speak into my phone for 30 seconds. We'll see.
Okay, always goes to that.
I know, but it's such
Okay,
a great example of
always
like
goes to
how
that.
it is, how it may be someday.
So we're starting to get an idea that this understanding of resonance that we're moving into by having spent almost 2 decades of first identifying the physics, then developing technologies based on it. And we're just providing a hint of there's 14 companies just in even our portfolio that are going to be coming to market in the next year and a half that's actually entering the market now. We'll probably have 5 companies in the market this year, another 5 or 6 next year. And so agriculture, pretty much every aspect of human health, material sciences, energy, natural resources, pretty much every single thing that we're dealing with at the water, which we're going to talk about a lot coming soon. So on 3/22, on Water Day, we're actually going to be introducing some of these water technologies for the first time that are doing really special things, such as taking sewage water and combusting all of that, getting ultra pure water coming out, and then converting the sewage actually into hydrogen.
That's amazing.
So now we're getting, we've seen all the jokes of, using sewage for things, for energy, but now we can actually truly use that. And then on, so that's going to be Water Day. And then on 4/22, which is Earth Day, we're going to be introducing some very, very exciting technologies on new thinking and energy and the environment and natural resources that really have the opportunity to change how we're doing things. And then on 5/22, we're going to be diving much more in and provide some more examples of health technologies that are coming. So we have a small window here, so we're not going to be able to dive into all this today. But before we do, a few more things. I'd like to address with you 2 specific things. So one is your book coming out, or that's out today. The Pristine Blueprint. And another exciting thing is the project that you and your team has brought forth that we've been a little bit a part of using some of our technologies called Jaizen Labs. But can you just maybe 1 minute on the book and 1 minute or so on Jaizen Labs?
Sure. Yeah. So like I was saying earlier, the book has been a long time coming and really grounded in my inner knowing that I came into this life with, and my over 2 decades of working with patients, attempting to unravel health situations, and then having a health challenge of my own back in 2004, and just the journey I took to unwind that. And then for the last 15 years or so, I've started studying physics and kind of looking for answers. And then especially through being involved in RTG, I was able to just literally meet some of the finest minds on planet Earth, and from doctors to inventors to physicists, just on the leading edge, that are thinking differently about our universe. And then I started being able to kind of apply that thinking to the human body. And so the book is called Your Pristine Blueprint: The Missing Key to Longevity, Reversing Disease, and Radically Transforming Your Life. And it's the concept is that we, at the moment of our conception, there's a blueprint that forms. There's like that photoacoustic boom at the moment of our conception imprints a 3-dimensional template and something in the field itself that is guiding the flow of the ubiquitous life force energy into our physical form. And our degree of health really correlates with the degree to which we resonate with our patterning blueprint in this field. And I just want to say real quick, as we go through life, oftentimes this becomes not the blueprint, but the information becomes corrupted, because as we were saying, everything has an energetic signature. And so that includes the energetic signatures of toxins that we encounter through life, infections, and even the collective energetic signatures of traumatic experiences and the unmetabolized emotions that are still kind of reverberating in our field. The signatures of those things can begin to disrupt resonance with our blueprint. And I think one other super important point about contemporary thinking in physics is that no physical forms are static. Matter is literally forming and annihilating trillions of times per second. And so how is it possible that we're reemerging as these complex multicellular organisms every trillionth of a second? Well, it's because of our blueprint, and the fidelity of the translation of our blueprint really determines our health. And so now we're moving into an era where we understand this, and we can apply technologies to transmute the dissonance that disrupts health.
Okay, so I've got a lot of really great minds on our team, and I sometimes joke. I say, "Let me break out my secret decoder ring," but just I'm just going to break it down like 30 seconds. Basically, we're saying that at the moment of conception, there's this energetic signature that's imprinted into space memory, and then as we go through life, there's a communication with it hundreds of millions of times a second. And as we go through life, there builds up static between them.
Yes.
And that one thing determines everything about longevity, wellness, disease. And so now, all of a sudden, the complexity of so many different things of health, wellness, vitality breaks down to one thing. How do we increase the degree of resonance or dissonance with the field of energy and information we exist within?
Absolutely, because the more we're in resonance, the greater the flow of energy through the correct information into our system. And that really determines how our physiology functions and our degree of health and the rate of our aging. So I break down in the book like different aspects of our lifestyle and choices that you can make with what you're eating, the water you're drinking, even the thoughts that you think that are in resonance with your blueprint. And you can even cultivate states of consciousness that have a transmuting effect, much like we had today in that beautiful meditation where we all came together for this beautiful day. I don't know if all of you felt this, but I sure did. It's just that palpable sense of peace and love. And that energy is the best technology of all. That is what transmutes dissonance and can restore resonance with your blueprint.
So Jizen Labs really only probably have a couple
1
minutes.
second. Okay, let's just say it's so much more than this, but it will host a suite of technologies.
So basically what this is about a 16,000 square foot bio-optimization facility.
That's right. And it's right on the San Francisco Bay. And it will have my clinic and also this bio-optimization lab. And it will be the first place on earth that hosts this suite of energetic technology, some of which are being used elsewhere, but many of which have not been used before, some that are new to planet Earth and are going to be available to the people that go there.
And that's going to basically be opening about May 1st.
Yeah, right around
right?
May 1st. So then on May 22nd, we may even be able to do it live from there, and I can kind of walk people through some of the tech.
Okay, so beautiful. So thank you for that. So we've got, looks like we've got a few minutes left, and we were hoping that we did.
Yeah.
Because usually when we do these events, or we've never done anything like this before, but even just small talks and things, people always have a few questions.
Yeah.
So since we've got a live event today, we thought we'd go and we'd take some time to answer a few questions.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's see here. So the first one, can you talk more about the energy technologies? Okay.
Like maybe just give people a sneak peek.
Okay. So we'll definitely talk more about this on Earth Day, 4/22. But, you know, there's a lot of energy in this field. Most people aren't aware. So if we imagine that, you know, if we talked earlier about that the atom is in resonance with this field, the nucleus of the atom is in resonance, and that's where the energy is coming from. So let's just articulate that for a moment. So if we imagine that the space between us is not empty, which, I mean, we breathe gases. We know there's all sorts of things. It's just not visible to us. But let's imagine for a moment that it's filled with energy, which it is. And now this has been quantified at universities around the world. And I think the vernacular is, they call it the energy density of the vacuum. It's a little bit of a misnomer. But so if you imagine, if I was to hold sort of an invisible sugar cube between my fingers, so about a cubic centimeter, in that space, I think it's 10 to the 92nd, 10 to the 93rd gram cube squared, which, translating that, is the energy of basically hundreds of millions of our star, our sun, between my fingers right now, in that little bit of space of energy. And I know that seems crazy, but that's where the energy of everything is coming from. The atom, the 37 trillion cells in our body, our sun is tapped into that. And so if we could emulate that, if we could tap into that field and be in resonance with it, we could do really extraordinary things. And we're going to begin introducing technologies based on that principle in April.
Yep.
So that's a little bit of a teaser. Okay. So, oh, where can I get the patches? Okay. So, so there's a couple places, but we've got this one here. It's a really great group of people that are bringing this product to market, vibrance.com. And
pretty soon on UNIFY.
Oh, yes. Oh, that's right. Thank you for reminding me. Adil would be really upset with me if I did not share that. But yes, so the UNIFY group is because, maybe I'll just share a moment of that. So, you know, UNIFY, Adil and his team have never brought products to market because there was never anything that worked with the unified field.
Yeah.
And since these technologies and products do, they're now going to be introducing a patch a little different than the Vibrance product, but that also works on these same principles. And so that's exciting.
It is.
Okay. So what's that thing on the table in between you? Ah, okay.
You can sense that it's something a little unusual. Yeah.
Okay. That's a great question. So
can you pick it up?
Yeah, maybe I can. Maybe I can show this a little bit to the camera. I can't really see fully what the camera is. Oh, I guess it's zooming in.
Yeah,
so
get a good look at it. I mean, it'd be so cool if you could get a super close up.
Let's see.
Walk it up there.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
You can see actually the little circuit board on this, but we don't want to have too much of it. So that's enough for now. Okay, but what is this doing and how is this working on the idea of resonance? So, one thing that's really become a really big concern of people is 5G and EMF frequencies. So imagine that so in resonance, you know, we don't ever want to kill anything. We don't want to stop things because that really doesn't work. But the idea is if we can transmute things into higher states, then we can change them from being harmful to us to being actually potentially good for us, or at least being neutral. And so maybe many people know about structured water. And if you don't, you're going to know about it on 3/22 Water Day. A lot's going to be talked about structured water, meaning making water more coherent and many different things. But since space is super fluid, we can actually structure space. And then when space becomes more structured, becomes more coherent, then the information moving through space, even if it initially enters it and it's not coherent for us, it actually can become neutral or coherent. And so we're actually, with this device, we're actually structuring the space around us. So EMF frequencies and these type of things can be taken from something that's negative to a minimum of neutral, and then actually be moved into being beneficial, which that's a big deal because you know, a lot of the folks on our team and a lot of people we talk with, the 5G thing, EMFs are a really, really big deal. So really another beautiful example of resonance. So it's here. I have a health challenge. How do I get a hold of Dr. McDougall? So
Mm.
I think at the end of this, we'll be providing an info@rtg.io.
Mhm.
Would that work?
That would not be the best way to reach
Okay,
me.
right.
If you can try contacting first my clinic, clearcenterofhealth.com, and then starting soon, you'll be able to contact jizenlabs.com. And my schedule is pretty booked out, but the Jizen Labs will have my practice and the practice of 3 other doctors. So there's going to be some good opportunities to see people that are thinking along these lines and have access to all the beautiful technologies.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, and Mark, you mentioned using natural resources.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah,
that's probably a good one.
that's a good one.
So I think or most people are aware today that mining, extracting, whether it's, rare earths or gold or whatever it is pretty harmful to the planet. Well, it's starting to be understood that in the way that we're mining today is, it's a pretty linear way. We see like a little spot of something, we try to get the smallest amount of what we can, and in a ton of dirt, there's a very small amount of it. And we use, whether, moving 600 tons of dirt today or using chemicals or whatever to extract that. Well, using these principles of resonance, I can't share a whole lot about that right now, but it's going to radically change everything that we know about extracting metals and minerals from the earth, where we're no longer harming the planet.
Mhm.
We can actually go to mine sites that have already been used and go and capture a lot that's been left, and actually clean it up in the process.
Mm.
So that's going to be coming out pretty soon also. So I think let's see here. Can you talk? Okay, can you talk a little bit more about the ag tech and what kind of examples you're seeing? So we'll make this kind of our last question.
Okay.
So yeah, so let's see. We've done studies on cannabis, which probably most of this crowd listening today is open to. So, for instance, pretty significant increases in yield, anywhere from 15 to 25%, up to well over 100% increase in yield. A greater expression of terpenes, a greater expression in the whole cannabinoid profile, reductions of water, the ability to eliminate chemicals and pesticides, and also with new technology, no more mold, no more fungus. And so now the plants become truly organic. And one of the studies that we did, oh gosh, years ago with the cannabis, remember, that after about 1.5 to 2 years, some of the test product was found. It was put into a drawer after the test, and they opened the envelope and the bag that the product was in, and after almost 2 years, it was still fresh. There was
Amazing.
no mold, no fungus. It still had a very significant amount of terpene expression from the smell, but we're getting really wonderful results with multiple of plants. And even one of our clients, I can't remember exactly how it was because I wasn't involved in it, but somehow the water that was being used to grow a crop got diverted to an operation where they were also raising chickens.
Yeah.
And the mortality rate, I can't remember the numbers, but it was very high.
Right.
Of the chickens. And by using the water, the mortality of the rate of the chickens went down something like 60% or something. And they became healthy, like really amazing things, simply by using this new type of water.
Mm-hmm.
So, not only is it great for plants, but, humans, animals, everything. So I think in summary, we planted some good seeds today, both metaphorical and maybe even a couple of them actually really plant any, but the rest of the team probably was out there planting some seeds today.
Yeah.
But hopefully what we did is, which that was a pretty fast hour, is that we provided, let's see here. Oh, okay. In the chat, I see that our team's telling us that for Aptera, actually for the patches, even for Clear Center.
Clear
Yeah,
Center.
that some of these links were posted. So that's good for everybody.
Thank you. And Jizen.com.
Yeah.
Jizen Labs.
JizenLabs.com.
Yeah.
But we provided the first basic understandings, and then we're going to dive much more into this on 322, 422, and 522, then culminating somewhat on 622, potentially with a very significant event in Europe that we're going to be presenting at. That pretty much every problem we're facing today. So quickly today, we went through energy, natural resources, health, agriculture, is going to be able to start being transformed by moving from dissonance to resonance.
Absolutely.
So we're just so grateful for the opportunity to be able to share this with everybody, to be able to begin communicating this and planting the seeds of awareness of its coming. And anything else that you'd like to add?
Well, I would just like to add, just on a personal note, I recall at age 4 or even 5 or 6, having an understanding about the energetically dense nature of the field. And so I've been aware of this my whole life, and, was a little disappointed in humans for forgetting about this, and for us to have all these dissonant technologies at play that were, kind of besmirching our landscape and making it difficult to live here on Earth. And so I literally feel like I've been born for this moment of right now, this kind of passing through this threshold of limited understanding into a greater understanding about the nature of reality and what it holds for us, and how we can solve all problems with our health or with our environment by learning how to tap into it. And I know we haven't spoken much about Nassim Harriman, but I just want all of you to be aware that within the next coming months, he's going to be publishing a paper that is where he's written the math that really articulates the energetic density of the field, the kind of structural relationships of all the scales. He's talking about a solution that really explains that gravity and weak force, strong force, electricity and magnetism are all different aspects of this one thing, which is, the life force that is inherent in the universe and that travels through each and every one of us, animates us, and gives us form and expression. And so we're moving into a really exciting period of time. And this is literally why I came to Earth. So
I thank you for that. We tried to get Nassim here today, but he's flying. So
yeah.
It wasn't able to be here. But I'm super glad you mentioned that, because this paper really is going to be sort of, we talked about foundation earlier, but this is the foundation that all of this is going to be inarguable, that and that the rest of the world can begin engaging with, and developing technologies based on this principle of resonance, which we want this to be an explosion of resonance. So, okay, it looks like we've got 57 seconds left. So we did good.
Yep.
Many blessings. Thank you, everybody, for this time today. And just honored to be a part. Thank you.
Thank you.